Marcell Rev, cinematographer for Euphoria, a look at life for a group of high school students as they grapple with issues of drug, sex, and violence on HBO. This special episodes also in between season 1 and 2 aired later or last year on HBO, and then obviously earlier this year. So Marcell, I wanted to the show is on the cusp of starting for season 2, and had to be shut down with the production for coronavirus and the pandemic. And then when were you approached about the special episodes, and what were your initial conversations with Sam Levinson like?
Oh yeah, I think when we got shut down, that was like 1 week before we started shooting or something like that. So we were like fully prepped. We had our hair and makeup test. We were ready to go, and then this happened. And I think like right after the shock, like a week after we got shut down, I think Sam started to think about how we could make something during these times, because we had like a whole crew waiting for this for a good amount of time, and then and also us just wanting to do something. So he started to write these special episodes, which actually helped us to develop the language of the second season as well. So I was pretty early on involved in the idea of it and what these could be.
So they're visually, I would say certainly the Rue episode is much, I think, a lot different maybe than the show, at least previously, and it's a lot not necessarily paced slower, but it's a different feel, obviously. So I guess, can you talk about like how you approached it visually, and like what your thoughts were of how to like change it for the special, like for I guess like the special of the special episode, yeah.
Yeah, obviously these were written for this special situation, so we had to go simple. But in a way, I think it helped us to free our minds from everything we experimented with in the first season. And I think it really helped us to, it actually allowed us to do something completely different. But we had to strip down our tools. We had to strip down our look. Like it's a limited tool set that we were working with, and I think that allowed us a certain freedom to dig deeper with those limited tools, which I really much enjoyed it. I mean, I'm talking about like shooting on 1 location instead of like shooting on 50 locations per episode, and dealing with 2 characters instead of 120 characters, and that just allows you to focus more on the details and just get lost in the details a little bit. And I think I really enjoyed it. It was a big shift in terms of style, in terms of focus, and I don't know, it was fun.
You meant, like, can you talk a little about like you're in the 1 location, you have obviously Rue and Ali in the diner booth. Can you talk a little about how you decided to where you wanted the camera, and how sometimes you're out, like whether it's outside, like looking through the window, or in the actual diner? And I noticed the perspective sometimes does change throughout. I guess, can you talk a little about like how you map that out, and like why you made those choices?
Yeah, so for example, those choices like really get magnified when you have like this 1 location, 2 faces for 30 minutes, and all those like little gestures, whether you're shooting through a glass or you're inside, get like really magnified, and it gives it a big significance. And so we started to shoot it the first day. We thought we will just do a wide shot and maybe just a couple of lines from the outside, and then we jump in and we'll have the whole conversation, like 90% of the conversation inside. And then I think as we started shooting it, we thought, actually the second day we watched the dailies coming back, we were shooting on film. So we, it's something, it's really different when you get the dailies back as opposed to digital. So we looked at the dailies the second day, and then we thought, okay, why don't we shoot like a good amount of this dialogue from the outside as well, and then they can decide it at the editing when they want to jump back and forth between the spaces. And so we ended up shooting, I think, like almost like half of the scene from the outside as well as from the inside, to give that option, which was a big decision, because we had like a really limited amount of time for these 2 episodes, and it was a fairly big scene.
But you also, and then it kind of like culminates at the last shot of Rue in that episode. The first one, where they're driving and it keeps pushing in through the windshield. I thought that shot is so great, and just everything about that I really like. I was quite taken with. I guess can you talk about like setting that up and like, I guess how you decided to do that, and like, how like, yeah, like how what the process for that was.
Yeah, so that shot is as everything, as I said. Also, when you're looking at two faces for 40 minutes, it's like a push-in can be like a push-in wasn't a big deal in the first season, because like you have like a constantly moving camera. But when you are like stationary on two faces for 40 seconds, and then you can do like a slow push-in, it's actually a zoom and push-in on her face. It just magnifies the whole experience. I don't know. It's just the gesture becomes so way more bigger in a way. And so we set that up on a process trailer, and we were initially going for like over the hood, like a very symmetric two shot. But then we discovered this angle, and we thought, okay, maybe, I mean, this is all about Rue, so why don't we just slowly push it? And at the time, I think Sam already had the idea of Ave Maria, the song playing in the car, and we just played the song, and we tried this slow zoom and push in, and with just the rain hitting the windshield, and it felt like it's working at the time. So we went for this side angle and this push in. It was I mean, there are like instinctive decisions on set. We always have like a good plan for most of the situations. For the entire first season, we storyboarded and we come with a plan. But with Sam, it's pretty easy to change things on the day as we feel like something would work better with another approach, and this was one of those examples.
Yeah, I was watching it. I was like, you so rarely get to see a single, like an actor's face just stop. You're just like, like watching an actor like in that sustained kind of like, staring at them. It's like, I was like, oh, it reminded me a little of like different, obviously, because you're pushing it, but it reminded me a little of like Michael Clayton, where you're just like staring at George Clooney at the end. I know you previously in the first season maybe talked a little about, or I think Sam had talked about maybe mentioning Magnolia as like a touch point for you guys. Was there in these specials, was there like a visual touch point for you, or anything you were like, oh, like in the back of your head, like, oh, that's pretty cool, or like, oh, like, like some kind of inspiration there?
Not from movies. I think I was looking at a lot of photos. I think I just came across this album that I had from Nan Golden that I just connected with me for these special episodes. And also I think for the second season it will be something that I'll go back to. Not anything in particular, but just the all over mood of it. And also I came across this exhibition catalog from a MoMA exhibition from 1992 or one, or I don't know. It's called Pleasures and Horrors of Domestic Comfort, which could be a subtitle for Euphoria, I think. And it's just an amazing body of work. And yeah, I was going through those pictures and somehow, yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously for the diner, you can't not think about Hopper's image about the diner, but it's like most American diners.
Yeah, it also reminded me a little of Heat, honestly, the way you have the two of them framed a couple of times, like,
Yeah,
with like
yeah,
even, yeah, it's like pretty cool.
yeah.
You mentioned
But
like, yeah, go ahead.
just one thing to mention is that I mean, is for a scene like that, you obviously need it's all about the performance. So first things first, you have to have those performances in order to be able to do anything visually. So and also that pushing at the end works because she gave such a performance before that it actually means something, like a pushing on her face.
Yeah,
Later.
and I guess, yeah, and last thing quickly, I'm speaking of the performances. The other actor in it is Miss Marcia, who I know is not necessarily an actor, right? Like, or certainly, like, but gives this really. I just found that that little scene is so great. Can you talk about like setting that up and like how you kind of executed that? Because I thought that was like that's a great moment in the episode.
Yeah, that we had to have like a kind of like a documentary kind of approach to that. Miss Marsha is not an actor. She was we found her and we met her in the church when we were scouting, and she was I think janitor at the church and at the time, and we just immediately fell in love with her persona, and she became kind of a regular in Euphoria. She was in season 1, and I think she'll be in season 2 too. Yeah, and obviously when in those kind of situations, you try to create an environment when she can feel free to try not to give marks and eye lines and whatever. You try to light a little more, like light the space in a way that she could move around. Yeah, it's but she was actually she was really professional.
Yeah, it's a great moment, and like you said, like the mixing of like it does feel like documentary-ish, but it also obviously fits in with the narrative. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
her story she's telling there for the most part. So
Right. Yeah. Marcell Rev, cinematographer for Euphoria on HBO season 2 later soon, and the specials are now. Thank you so much for joining us. Stick around. We'll do the roundtable shortly. Thank you.
thank you so much.